Hey, welcome everybody. Brian McLean, pastor of NorthPointe Church here with our missionary, Brandon Newman. And he is our missionary to Scotland. And that's not Scotland, Texas. That's like Scotland, the country. So the one right above England. And so we're going to just talk to him today a little bit and have him share what's going on over there, how God's moving. And so we'll get jumping right into this. So let's introduce you first. So tell us a little bit about you and the family. And let's go from there.
Okay, so as you said, my name's Brandon Newman, and my family and I, Melissa, my wife, I've been married for a little over 20 years now. And then we have two daughters, Haley, who is 19. She's a senior at SAGU, and she's also engaged, so she's going to be getting married soon. So this will be, actually, when we go back to Scotland, the first time she doesn't go with us. So that's a big adjustment for us. But we have her, and then we also have one more daughter, Lexi, who is 11, and so she was born in Scotland during our very first missions term. Yeah.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about the ministry that you do in Scotland.
Yeah, so when we first moved to Scotland about a little over 12 years ago, we were primarily focused on youth. Youth ministry was our calling, or was our focus. And then over the next several years, that just kind of evolved into church planting, outreach driven, which again evolved into actual proper church planting, if you would, which actually has now evolved into chaplaincy ministry. So I can kind of back up a little bit and tell you some of that story if you want. So probably about 7 years ago, we were doing youth work. Well, probably about 8 years ago, we were doing youth work in a town called Whitburn, Scotland, right between Glasgow and Edinburgh, the two biggest cities. And we really felt the Lord stirring us to plant a church in Glasgow. We didn't really know how we were going to do that. We didn't know what we were going to do. So one day I was running. I was working out, and I was praying and saying, God, how do you want to do this church plant? How do you want us to go about doing it? And while I was running, the Lord gave me this word, and He later showed me the verse in the Bible. But as I'm running there, the Lord spoke to me, and He says, well, Brandon, what's in your hand? And that's Exodus chapter 4, verse 2, where God's speaking to Moses in the burning bush. Moses, I'm sending you to Pharaoh. And Moses is like, no, God, please send somebody else. And God says, well, Moses, what's in your hand? Well, for Moses, it was a staff or a rod. So for me, while I'm running there, God says, well, Brandon, what's in your hand? I said, well, Lord, I'm running, I'm working out. He said, I'm going to use that. Well, long story short, God used that encounter, that moment with Him, which led us to plant our first church, or plant our church in a fitness center in Glasgow, David Lloyd Leisure Center. And so we planted the church there, launched it. And as you can imagine, if an American plants a church in a gym in Scotland, word gets out, and people are kind of, what's that all about? So then one day I get a phone call from a gentleman named Mark Fleming. Mark Fleming is the national director for sports chaplaincy, professional sports chaplaincy in Scotland. And he said, hey, Brandon, I hear what you're doing there in the gym. Would you consider being one of our chaplains at one of our professional soccer teams? So we prayed about it, and we felt the Lord was leading us to do that. Well, so long story short, we served as chaplain at the soccer team. He moved me then to a larger team a few seasons later and asked me to oversee one of the leagues as pastoral director, so I did that. And then most recently, he asked me to go establish sports chaplaincy for Scottish basketball, professional basketball. So I'm the chaplain for the Glasgow Rocks. And then also when I go back to Scotland, we'll be pioneering that work in Scotland to establish a chaplain at every single professional basketball team in Scotland, and also in England through the British Basketball League, the BBL.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how many teams are there, do you know?
Well, the BBL, I believe, has 10 teams, maybe 12 teams right now. It's not a huge league. And in Scotland, their leagues are similar as well, 10, 12 teams, and they have different divisions in Scotland as well, similar to the way they structure soccer. So you have your premier team, then your League Ones, League Two, Championship, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the religious atmosphere in Scotland right now? How are you able to really minister to people? Are they open to the gospel? What is your approach? You say chaplaincy. What else are you doing?
Yeah, so when it comes to religion, the primary religion is no religion in Scotland. I mean, Catholicism still has its place, but the majority of people would either associate themselves to be either humanists or probably agnostic. Just basically that's fine for you as long as you're not hurting somebody else. You believe what you want to believe, but really leave us out of it. And so it is a challenge. It's a very, very secular country, very secular. And that's kind of our mission statement. really is our mission, we believe in Scotland, is to connect the secular to Christ through church planting and sports chaplaincy. So that's what we're trying to do. But it's been a challenge. We've sown a lot of seed over the years. We have seen some fruit, praise God, and we're believing for much more in the coming years, and especially during this next missions term, for sure.
Very good. What is a normal day for you? Let me just ask that. What do you get up like at noon or something like that? Or
right now?
Sleep in? No. It's Scotland. Not here.
Oh, okay.
I know here right now you're making a lot of phone calls and trying to get services and things like that. We're going to talk about that. But just tell me what's going on normally for you.
Yes. So in Scotland, normally I would get up, depending on the day. Certain days I'm in the at the training facility where the players are at. And so that would be a Wednesday. So on a Wednesday, I would get up early, really early, because then I would go over to the Emirates Arena in Glasgow. That's where the Rocks would train. So I'd get there. I'd be with the players during the morning session. And then after training, we'd go up to the gym with them. Wouldn't really train with them. Sometimes I would. I'm a certified personal trainer, and my wife and I are both certified nutritional advisors and vegan nutritionists. And so a lot of the players were intrigued by that. So we found that those were tools, really kind of a connection point with the athletes. And then we'd a lot of times have one-on-one sessions with the players after the training sessions were over. So not only were we doing chaplaincy work with the basketball team, but we also took this kind of to another level at the local gym, the fitness center where we planted our church. And so on Sunday, we would have our services and things like that. But during the week, I was also there as kind of the unofficial chaplain, if you would. I was the pastor for the gym. And so every single day, I would be there. So if I wasn't at training with the players, I would be at the gym, not necessarily working out. So obviously I would do that as well every day. But I'd also be meeting with people in the cafe, going to meet with them outside of the gym. Really, I was their pastor. And that's kind of the focus with our approach with sports chaplaincy, is we're on one hand pastorally proactive. We're their pastor. Right. Everything I've ever done as a pastor, whether I was here in America or planting a church, when it comes to counseling, bereavement, marital support, any of these pastoral duties, I do that as a chaplain. Except my congregation right now is a secular congregation. They're lost right now. But by being pastorally proactive on this hand, we're then able to be spiritually reactive on this hand. By being Christ, we've then been able to share Christ with so many different people. And it's just been incredible to see how God has been moving in that way.
You also told me a little bit about the church planting and some of the unique ways God's used that. So tell us a little bit about that too.
Yeah, so our first church plant, our heart has always been, again, Scotland's a very difficult field when it comes to church planting, when it comes to getting people into the church. And so our philosophy has always been, if people won't come to the church, we'll take the church to them. And so our very first church planting work or effort, if you would, was actually, we called it Cafe Church. And so what we did there was we got permission from a local coffee shop called Costa Coffee, a national chain, very similar to Starbucks in Scotland. And they gave us permission on a Thursday night to have a small group, a Bible study, a small group, whatever you want to call it. But it was a little church plant meeting here at this Costa Coffee during business hours. And so they gave us a little section of the cafe that we would put our sign up that said Cafe Church on it. We would meet, and so there might be a group of chairs here separating our church from the public, but we would find that a lot of people, if they weren't sitting in our area, would sit just on the other side of the chair wall, if you would, and hear what was going on. They were intrigued. And so we found that we were still able to share the gospel, not only with our church people, but also with the people outside the church.
Right.
And so that was our first effort, and that's really kind of what sparked our heart to go to Glasgow to plant Life Church Glasgow in the fitness center.
Good. How is that working today? What's going on in that area right now in the church area for you?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, we actually were feeling the Lord leading us to make a transition with Life Church. We knew we weren't going to be there indefinitely. As a missionary coming back to America, raising support, it's very, very difficult. Another challenge we face in church planting in Scotland is finding a successor, or finding even someone to come alongside of you to help you during that process, or even to take over once you have to leave the country. It's a huge, huge challenge. But praise God, before we left to come back to America, we found a fellow chaplain. He's also one of my colleagues. He's a chaplain at one of the professional soccer teams in Glasgow, and he and I kind of merged our works together to continue the church planting work. So he's still pastoring there while we're here in America. And so we praise God that the work is continuing while we're away.
Of course, Scotland's on lockdown right now. Nobody's really in or out. So you're waiting, I know.
Yes.
And anxious. So tell us a little bit about your budget real quick. Where are you at on the budget? I know there's a monthly budget and then a cash budget. So where are those at?
Yes, sir. So right now we are really just officially getting started with our itineration. So right now we need to raise around $2,300 in monthly support, okay. $2,300 in monthly support. And then we need to raise around $16,000 in cash support. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
All right. Okay. Well, you heard it here. So Brandon will be at NorthPointe on February the 14th as well. So come and look forward to hearing him there. But also, if you're a church pastor and you're looking for someplace good to plant some money, this is a young family that you might want to sow some seeds into here and into Scotland as well. It has a close place in my heart as well, because that's where heritage-wise I'm from. So we thank Brandon for being here with us today at NorthPointe and for the Plano section, and we wish him all the best as well. So God bless you. Thank you for joining us today. We encourage you to see us here tomorrow at 4 o'clock for our Wednesday Word, Friday at noon for prayer, and then, of course, Sunday at 11 o'clock as well. God bless you. Have a great week.